Hey everybody, my name is Brutger and I'm here with Skid Steer Solutions, and today we're going to show you what it looks like to unbox your new auger, get it assembled, swap between attachments, and change the bits on the auger. This is what the pallet's going to look like when you get your auger delivered to your door from skidsteersolutions.com. Alright, first step in the process is we're going to go ahead and get this quick attach plate onto our skid steer. After you get it attached, you want to make sure your pins are fully engaged. You can hold up your arm and get a look that way if you'd like. Ours are good. You want to do that to make sure it's safe and doesn't fall off while you're operating. All right, next step after we have the quick attach on the machine is we're going to go ahead and open up the box. First thing you're going to see as you lift the top off is your owner's manual. Make sure you take your time, read through this, and get familiar with it. Just lifts up straight like that. And on the other side here, you have your hoses. These are optional 90-degree fittings in case your machine requires it for clearance reasons. And up here we have our quick connect couplers that are going to go on the end of the hose. We're going to go ahead and use the machine itself to do a lot of the heavy lifting for us. Typically what a lot of people will do is they'll actually come in with their fork attachments, which we have a little slot for here, and go ahead and move it over in front of their machine with that first. But today I have Rob Jr. All right, the next step, once we have the auger over to our clean working area, is going to be to find a friend and lift this up and in. And before we do that, we got to make sure we get this pin out. To do that, I'm going to go ahead and lift this front edge up so I can get my hand underneath. The next step after you have the pin out and ready to go is to grab a friend and a hammer and slide this up in. As you're tapping it down, you have a pin with an alignment tab here that you want to get lined up with this boss. All right, now that we have the pin fully seated, we're going to put the nut on the bottom. You can do that by yourself without lifting up, but it is easier with a friend. So I'm going to go ahead and lift the front of this auger up so Mark can get in there and get that tight. Make sure to look in your owner's manual and torque that nut to spec. All right, next step after we have that retaining nut on is we're going to go ahead and put our hoses on. We have our box over here with our quick connect fitting hoses and optional 90-degree hose ends. These hose ends you're only going to use if you require it for clearance on your personal machine. All right, the first step is we're going to take these caps off where our fittings go, and they can be a little snug with the powder coating, so you might have to use a pliers. A very important step here, and this is one of the biggest questions we get on assembly, is there's a little rubber washer here. That rubber washer does come off. It is not needed. Its only purpose is to make sure we don't get paint on the mating surface. It may look like an O-ring, but it is not. The 90-degree fittings go at your auger, and the straight fittings go on your machine. Go ahead and pull this cap off. So we're going to go ahead and snug this up by hand as much as we can, and it is important that we do this hose first, because if you do this one first, you will not be able to get a wrench in for this one. So we're going to go ahead and snug up this bottom nut first. You don't have to do it too tight, but make sure it is pretty snug. And then once that bottom one's snug, we're going to go ahead and grab a second wrench and snug up this top nut to the bottom one. All right, that's good. Now that we have this hose secure, we're going to go ahead and put the second one on. So again, you can just start this by hand, spin it down. Once we get that as tight as we can by hand, we will grab our wrench, snug down that bottom nut first, and then grab our second wrench and snug this top one up to it. Again, you don't have to be overly tight, just tight enough to prevent leakage. There we go, we should be good. All right, after we have our hoses snugged up here, we're gonna go ahead and put our quick connects on. Connection A is going to get the male fitting, and connection B is going to get the female fitting. If you do mix these up, it's not a big deal. Your machine will just run backwards. So you'll have to reverse your flow to go clockwise and put your flow normal to go counterclockwise, but it still will work. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and put our quick connect fittings on. There is a plastic plug inside of here you have to pull out. This one gets our male end. We're gonna go ahead and spin that on, hand tight as much as we can, and then grab our wrenches. In the other one, which is the B port, gets our female end. All right, after we tighten that up, we're gonna go ahead and get it connected to our machine. So right now, I'm just snugging up these fittings so they don't leak when we turn the machine on. Again, just get these snug. We don't have to over tighten them. We just want to complete the seal so you don't leak hydraulic fluid. All right, now that we have our auger drive unit itself installed, we're going to get ready to put the auger bit on. All of our bits that attach to this are a 2-inch hex, so make sure if you're buying other attachments, that's what it is. Okay, once you get the box open, you're going to notice it comes with the bit and the pilot tooth. You have to actually install the pilot tooth, which I'm going to show you how to do here. So you're going to pick this up carefully and go ahead and just slide this on. You may have to lift up on the auger to get it started. Okay, once you get the auger bit slid on, we're just going to go ahead and slide our retaining clip through. Alright, now we're ready to put our fishtail pilot on. And just for reference, you can buy a standard replacement or a tungsten one if you're drilling through harder rock soil. Before we do that, we have our 17mm wrenches, and we're just going to put a little bit of Loctite on there. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is show you how to switch from an auger bit to a stump planer. First thing we do is we're going to open up the box. If your machine does have a lockout for the arm, you can do it with it down, but our machine does not. We're going to go ahead and remove the quick attach pin. Lift up on the auger and slide this bit out. Alright, we're just going to roll this out of the way for now. And do the same exact thing in reverse for this guy. Alright, so when you are doing this, you got to make sure you get the hole lined up. This one I got to slide back just a little bit. Go ahead and slide our pin in. Going to tap that through and put our quick connect pin back on. Alright, since I have the stump planer on here, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to change the cutting edge. These will wear out, and they do wear out faster if you're cutting hardwoods regularly. If you order the cutting edges from us, it will come with all the hardware necessary to replace it. We're not going to reuse these old bolts. Alright, now that I got the old one off, I'm going to get ready to put the new one on. Before I do that, I'm just going to go ahead and dab a little bit of Loctite on each of these bolts here. I'm just lightly snugging these at first until they're all four in place so it seats correctly. And then after that, I'm going to go ahead and torque these down as close as I can to evenly. I'm going to get these as tight as I can by hand. I'm going to go from the top one to the bottom one and then snug up these middle two. And that's it. Alright, the last thing I'm going to do today is show you how to replace the pilot bit on the stump planer. You do have a few options. You can replace just the pilot, the wings, or you can replace the whole thing. We do always recommend to replace the whole thing. If you are replacing just pieces, you're going to have to get a press and a punch and press this pin out. If you are replacing the whole thing, which is what we recommend, you're going to go ahead and pull this bolt out right here on the top. Alright, now that that's out, this should just slide out, and we are ready to go ahead and replace it. Before you put this in, again, we're just going to dab it with a little bit of Loctite. Little mechanics trick, spin it backwards until you feel the threads lock out, and then go down so you don't cross thread it. And then just tighten this up. We're going to go ahead and get it as tight as we can by hand. Alright, that's it. All of this stuff is available on skidsteersolutions.com. Thanks for watching. If you have any other questions regarding your Eterra auger, head to skidsteersolutions.com or give us a call and one of our top tier customer service representatives will help you out.